All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of Is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. Also a reminder that I'm on JApp. JApp is a Jewish application which features shiurim for big rabbis as well as episodes of this program. To find JApp, you can do so through the website www.j-app.me, or you can download it from iTunes or Google Play stores. And of course, the email is messiahhour@gmail.com. Ever want to know why it is difficult to live in Israel? On the line to discuss that, our favorite rabbi from Spot, and you can find him on somazal.com and gergear.com, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Ari. Thanks for having me on, my fellow Israeli.
Yes, that's right. You've been here a little longer than myself, but I've been here long enough where it's almost been 20% of my life, and it is difficult, and I don't want to lie. This is not going to be one of these pro-Nefesh B'Nefesh shows where we have a lot of propaganda and somewhat lie to the people. We're going to be kind of honest. So the first intro is there is difficulty living in Israel, and I want to start first with what particular parts to you are difficult. The bureaucracy, is that hard? And if so, why is it so hard?
Man, there's so many things, right? I mean, just, in Spot, there's a lot of, it's an Anglo town, so you're going to see a lot of Anglo problems. Obviously Jerusalem is too, but Spot is pretty condensed, right? It's a small town, and you're looking at the old city in the Midrachov as a condensed area where you're going to find Anglo problems. And I mean, just some of the things I see running around town. For example, you've probably seen this at your bank, right? There's one bank machine that you can get money out of and one that you cannot get money out of. You get, information about your bank account, right?
Right, yes.
Everyone, you come out, and it doesn't say, like in America, it would be a big sign, this machine is for getting money, and this one, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to figure it out. And Israelis are like, no, hello. And you're saying, excuse me, I'm not from here, as if he doesn't know, right?
Right.
Which machine do I get money from? They say, slicha? Huh? Matomer? What are you saying? And then, it's a nightmare. You're in a rush, you gotta make a bus, your tour group is gonna leave, or, you're whatever, you're late. How do you get money here? And bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You have to make aliyah. You have to go to what's called the Misrat Pnim, the Ministry of Interior. And, I got things to do, Ari, so I'm going to just show up at 3 o'clock, right? 3 o'clock's fine. No, we're closed at 1. What do you mean? It's 3 o'clock. We're supposed to be open until 5 or 6 p.m. at night. No, we close at 1. We reopen at 4. So tomorrow, okay, I missed it. That's not so good. So I'll go tomorrow. And it's Tuesday, so it's all good, right? Show up at 4 o'clock. We're all good. No. Tuesday, they don't open in the afternoon. Only open until 1 o'clock every other day at 4 o'clock.
Right, yeah. And by the way, folks, if you're listening to us outside of Israel, we're not making this up.
Right. So it's not only is there no, set ways, if you think you can, use wisdom and logic to figure it out, oh, Marge, they always do this. Yeah, they close down at 1, and then they probably open because in the Middle East they have this thing where they eat, pita bread, and then for sure they'll be open at 4. No, they're not.
I used to think, when the banks, my Bank of Poland, for example, has a thing with Mondays and Thursdays, they reopen at 4. I just thought they did it because that's a Torah reading day. That's what I was thinking. So it's got to be, right? Why else do Monday and Thursday? I couldn't figure it out.
Right. When I first started learning Torah, it's the Rambam with an M at the end says this. And then you see somewhere else the Ramban says, I'm saying, it must be a misprint, Right. You can't be two guys, one named Ramban, one guy named Rambam.
And by the way, people listen to this, they might, oh, wow, they're really whining and complain about something so stupid. And the reason why it's not so stupid is because if you have a lot of things to do or a job, and to make an appointment 3-4 different times when normally would be one time for 5 minutes, that's a really big deal, especially when you got to pay your rent at the end of the month and money's hard enough as it is. We'll get to that later on. But these things are a big deal.
Right. And every office is different, right? The post office downtown Spot is not the same as my bank. So I got to know which hours the post office is open in the afternoon, in the morning, versus my bank, which is open, I think, 1 or 2 days in the afternoon. Every bank's not the same, right? So, and there's not like an easily visible central location of every hour of everything. It's like passwords for your internet. You have to know who's open, where. Then there's always the fun thing where your government office has moved locations,
right?
And
or they're on strike,
or they're on strike. Right? Yeah, we're here to get paid today, and no, there's no, they're on strike. Oh, didn't know that. Then you walked in the rain, you got soaking wet to wait outside because you were gonna go stand in line, but it was on strike, and so now you're planning on being there for an hour, and your friend is gonna pick you up in an hour. So now you're waiting outside, soaking wet in the rain, waiting. You forgot to bring your book because you didn't think you'd need it because you were at the government office that was supposed to be open. But hey, it's a strike.
By the way, one more thing before we go on. The thing with the bank, when Rabbi Katz talked about the two different machines, so many times when I first got here, I thought, oh, wow, how come no one is at the second one? Everyone's at the first one. I'll just go to the second one. These guys are idiots, and I'm getting my money quick. I'm like, wait, what's this? I have no idea what this means. I don't want to read my account. I want to get something to eat. Give me the 50 shekels. So, very interesting point Rabbi Katz brought up. Let's move now to if there's been any type of progression. Again, you've been here 15 years. Have you thought or seen things get easier at all?
They have. I remember when I first made Aliyah, 2001, I went to the the Ministry of Interior. I think at that time it was to get my visa extended so that I could start the Aliyah process. And I heard rumors that no one there speaks English. This is in the old building in Sfat. That if you actually come to Sfat, this building has gunshot blasts on its exterior from the 48 war. So it no longer is it there, that office. They're in the south of town now. But you're walking into this building with bomb blasts in the building, and you're sitting in the waiting room. And at that time, Israel didn't believe in a ticket system, like a numbering system. So you're supposed to just kind of wait your turn, but you notice that everyone's jumping ahead of you in line. So I'm saying, I'm not going to be the dumb, foreigner where everyone's going to jump in front of me in line. So I'm like staking my claim, getting near the entrance, and it's like a battle zone. You're looking at him, he's looking at you,
right.
And you're like, no, you're not going. I'm next. And he's
right.
like, no, I need people. I'm here. Like, no, you're not. So you realize what's going on. Then you see that you think it's your turn. You jump in there, sit down in the seat like I made it, and then they're like, no, you got to leave. See, Bob here, or Moshe, he was waiting and he had to come back. And you're saying, where's the proof? I was here for an hour. No, but I was here 2 hours ago. And like they're making up the rule as you go, and you don't really know what's going on.
Well, what you know is that the person behind the desk is friends with Moshe for 25 years, and so that's the new rule.
Right.
That's who you know.
So nowadays there's a ticket system. If you go to the post office, for example, now you got to have a number, right? There's no jump in line. You will get thrown out if you're the bad guy now. Even the Israeli Moshe that knows the secretary, the guy behind the desk, right? He's not going to get past him either. And in fact, they'll get quite annoyed with the guy cheating. So they've improved when it comes to line waiting and general kind of order at the grocery store. You have to wait in line, right? You can't just jump and cut and say, I deserve to be in front of you. So they've really progressed when it comes to those things.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, I mean, some of these things I haven't seen as much of progression, but I do remember when I first got here, just having my elbows set, which is weird because it's the Holy Land, and we want to be religious Jews and good Jews, but the feeling of someone cuts me, I'm going to elbow them in the chest right away, and it's my spot, don't cut me. And it's tough for people to understand, but when you're in that kind of mob mentality, everyone rushes for something, it's kind of difficult to deal with. Again, we're speaking with Rabbi David Katz here on Israel Providence, Israel National Radio. Again, Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis on YouTube. That's the syndication. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about the Hebrew language and then the Anglos who have to learn the language or kind of learn the language or at least live in the country that has the language.
So what do you call a person who only speaks one language?
An American.
American.
Right.
So, everybody, the whole world, I think, can learn languages but us. The Russians are famous for speaking perfect Hebrew, right? It sounds kind of funny, right? They come across as, right? But they get it. And they speak it right. The American sounds like Afo Sherotim
Right.
Shelcha. Right? So it's horrible. We sound horrible. And really what it comes down to is, a lot of things, but I think the Americans stick together. We want American products. We want American things. We have American jobs. We do American clothes, American Judaism, American Torah. And the Israeli Hebrew really is a different culture. And the Americans just don't get involved or break into that world.
Right.
And the Russians do. The Russian will be friends with the Ethiopian and a Moroccan and Iraqi. And it's like, hey, not a big deal. This is my Russian friend, my Ethiopian friend, all that. But very rarely does the Israeli say, this is my American friend. It just doesn't happen a lot. My wife, when she was Israeli Moroccan, she passed on at this point, but my in-laws are Moroccan native, in Israel, and I'm the only American around. And I saw what goes into their world. And they don't know American from anything. So the Anglo sticks out just on so many ways. They claim for whatever reason they don't understand our Hebrew. Sure you get that too, Ari, right?
Yeah. There's a couple things to say, like, this whole thing Roadcast bring up is a great point of the whole, AFO, Aiden Baya, or Beseder. And one time this was about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was with some American friends and some Israeli friends, their Israeli friends, and I started talking to Hebrew. One of the American girls says to me, "Wow, is that how I sound like?" Our accent is very funny, and it's also the fact that, with all due respect to other countries, it gets to sound a little arrogant, but America is probably the best country in the world as far as quality of life, materialism, first class, and we're all leaving that to come to Israel, so there's a natural thing of, we're sticking together because, hey, we know what we gave up. We know how good we had it, and we'd like to get some of it back here. So that's part of the Anglo situation with Hebrew. So do you see how are we going to break through that, where we can learn Hebrew better and be part of the culture better, if that's what we should do?
So we have to really – I remember my wife used to say to me, how come you don't have any Israeli friends? And I thought, good question. Why don't I? The American, it's a simple question, right? Now, why don't I have Israeli friends? I don't know. I couldn't answer her. There's a joke by George Carlin. It says, he was saying, when he was a kid, George, where's the remote control? Like, I don't know. He says, George, it didn't just get up and walk away, did it? He says, that's a good question. Did it just get up and walk away? So then they gave me a cat, and they said, George, where's the cat? It didn't just get up and walk away. but the cat would. So there's no good answer to the question. The answer really is jump in. If you make Aliyah and you're an American or an Anglo, jump in. Make friends. Speak Hebrew. Don't be nervous that you sound dumb or a bad accent. They will make fun of you a little bit. But I found through my marriage and by being, just thrust into that world, a Moroccan-Israeli world, and I'm the Ashkenazi white kid from Dayton, Ohio, it just, you get over it. They get over it, you get over it, your Hebrew will work, you'll learn, and you'll still sound funny in your accent, but eventually you get it. And I think what's interesting, I just want to throw this in. They say that in England, right, like the Queen's English and all that, every neighborhood in England has a distinct dialect. So you can tell what neighborhood they're from. They're posh, they're this, right? In Hebrew, this is really a fantastic thing I learned. Every citizen of Israel has a different Hebrew, right? So in Sfat, they're very kind of like redneckish. Like, Efo ata lo mavin oti, right? Like, where are you? You don't know? And in Tel Aviv, it's very fast and kind of slang and, just, blah, 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 blah. In Jerusalem, I think it's very, like, they speak nicely, very proper, not slow, not fast. So you really get the culture in your Hebrew, and you can tell where a person's from, who they hang out with, what they're about. You know, the yeshiva guys will throw Torah Hebrew in.
Right.
And I think it's great when you get to the point where your Hebrew becomes part of your identity. And to me, that's a gift that I cherish the rest of my life.
Yeah, if you're speaking yeshiva Hebrew, usually you'll say things, you might say Torah, or you might say something with an Ashkenaz twist, like Shabbos, for example, instead of Shabbat. Most of the Israelis will say Shabbat.
Tavili et ha'iparon, right? Give me the pencil. But in yeshiva, she'd say Tavili es ha'iparon.
Right. They would add that. So it is interesting with the dialogue. Again, this is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva. The show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Again, speaking with Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi Katz, I want to know about the wisdom of the land. I've heard that you actually get wisdom from the air of Israel, which is interesting because I met one or two incompetent people in Israel, but I want to know if that's, again, literal or figurative. We list a lot of something's literal or figurative, so talk about the wisdom of the land of Israel.
There really is a chachma, wisdom in the land of Israel. And I'll tell you what it is. It's a fantastic concept. My wife made me get my driver's license, and that was a nightmare. Studying for the driver's test here in a foreign language, it was not fun. But one day I had a breakthrough with my instructor, and he kept saying, David, follow the plan of the road. I'm like, what plan? Like, what? He's like, follow the plan, like the layout. I'm like, what layout? Like, what do I got to do in this country? Because they make you feel like you're never, ever, ever, ever going to get through. And what it is that street signs in Israel and also in America, which you're probably unaware of, unless you're really old school, street signs have a wisdom to it, and they're here to help you. And I'm going to give a personal, example of this concerning driving. When I realized that the instructor was getting at, there's a wisdom. So my daughter's kindergarten is in the south of town. And it's like in this little neighborhood, I got to pull in and go deep into this neighborhood, drop her off. And when I come out, I got to make a right-hand merge with traffic. It's usually a pretty good traffic. And obviously nobody wants to let me in, right? No one's letting me in. And I'm thinking, like the Mr. Adam Dean thing, I got to honk and butt my way in and threaten the guy, and I'm going to cut him off, and we're going to have like a game of chicken, right? But if you look, the road has an angle, right? And that angles, it allows for you to merge and angle your way in, right? And the way geometry works is it just works. Like, it's the wisdom of the world, right? Geometry. So when you ride the merge lane, you're allowed to speed up because everybody else is stopped because of traffic, right? Or slowly moving. So the ratio of the angle and you moving quickly, them having to start and stop because of the traffic, every single time you will get a spot in the line. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to honk. You don't have to wait and break your neck. So this is the surprise. All of Israel is built like this, right? Everything you do, there is a wisdom. And I always give an example. I don't know if this is true or not what I'm saying, this following thing, but this is like the kind of thing. In America, the Marine, they'd give him a machine gun and say, hey, go shoot him up, commando. Right? In Israel, again, I don't know if this is exactly true, but the concept I know is true. They would teach you how the gun works. Every commando in the IDF would know how the gun works. So let's say there's a kick with the gun that makes you rock backwards, let's say 5 inches. And if you let the gun move you to your right, or to your left, that you could actually hit a target perfectly 10 times in a row by using the kick of the gun. So therefore the Israeli commando could take out, let's say, 10 guys just by the wisdom of the gun, rather than I have to aim, shoot, and try to kill 10 guys. So everything about the IDF, particularly in society here, is governed by wisdom. And really, when you get into the wisdom, it's fantastic because it really works.
Now, I heard a story that Rabbi Nachman, when he came to Israel, he wanted his previous writings ripped up or discarded. He felt a new sense of wisdom when he got to Israel from a religious Torah perspective. I want to know if there are other cases like that among rabbis that felt the same way, that Torah in Israel was different than Torah outside of Israel.
The Vilna Gaon, his whole mission in life was to come to Israel. And then, again, as we've stated many times on the show, that the Vilna Gaon invented Zionism, literally. And the premise of his Zionism is called Torah Eretz Yisrael. Anybody that knows Rav Kook or is a Zionist today, Merkaz Rav Yeshiva, is aware of Torah Eretz Yisrael. It's the fabric of the Dati Lumi. It's a fabric of a lot of, let's say, neo-Jewish movements, i.e., Jewish Zionists trying to recapture the truth of Judaism, trying to lose an exile mentality, not rewrite it, but connect to the truth. And that's the idea of Torah Eretz Yisrael, that where, you and I might be Sephardi, Ashkenazi, but we can live together in harmony, trying to really understand basically true Judaism. And when you're in Israel, you connect to the land. I mean, the history and the people, the culture, the things you see. So your perspective, let's say you had an idea of a Torah of Hebron, and then you come to Israel, and you go to Hebron and Sfat and Jerusalem and Tiberia, which are the 4 holy cities, you're going to have a different perspective of what those cities mean. So if your whole thing was an angle not of the land, then when you come into the land, everything would change. And for me, the biggest example of that was until 2 years ago, the Temple Mount didn't register in my thinking. I went on the Temple Mount about a year ago, and when I was up there, I realized I never had the right perspective until I went up. So you don't know what you're missing until you're here, and you connect, you'll realize it was, as long as Israel was not in your psyche, you weren't really there. So therefore, we see the writings of famous rabbis, Israel is really the name of the game. It's really what changes everything to a different quality.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk about why is it people have to suffer to live in Israel. There's a source for that. The whole Ashkenaz Sephardi issue, which is a bit of the white elephant in the room, and as well as your typical practical difficulty of living here. Again, this is a prophecy at Israel National Radio. The show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. You can also email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. If you have any topics or anyone you'd like me to interview in the future, please write to me there, and we will try to make that happen. After this break, more of my conversation with Rabbi David Katz of Somozal.com. This is a Prophecy on IsraelNationalRadio.com.